Welcome to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Our mission is to bring you discussions on a wide array of topics in the coaching world to grow players on and off the court. You can connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Now, here's your host, Coach Mike Hernandez.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us here for another episode, wherever in the world you're listening to us from, whatever platform you're listening to us on. As always, as I say each episode, thank you guys so much for the support, the kind messages, the tweets, the emails, all the things that you've sent our way. Keep those coming, and thank you again for joining us here for this episode. I know a lot of you listening are up-tempo coaches, love the press, love turnovers, love creating kind of a messy style of basketball, and I'm really happy to be bringing this episode to you today because that's what we're going to get into. The theme of this episode is going to be about creating more turnovers and talking with my guest about the defense they run, how they create more turnovers, working the press, working on the trap, getting those transition opportunities out there. So if you're looking to get some ideas or maybe reflect on what you do and kind of compare it to what we talk about, this episode is going to be really fun and really enjoyable. So that's what we're going to get into today. Talking about defense, talking about turnovers, and just getting some up-tempo transition basketball going. And as always, I don't do this alone. Very happy to be joined by the head basketball coach at Pearl River High School. Coach Dillon Smith is joining me today. Coach, thank you for coming on and joining me. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Coach. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here and kind of give some of my insight on my end about what I do and how we do things over here in Louisiana. So
yeah, let's get going on it, Coach. Let's start with your journey. Where did the game of basketball take you, and what did the journey entail that led you to Pearl River?
So I'm from Slidell, Louisiana originally. I fell in love with basketball when I was probably like 6 years old, just like I guess a lot about like a bunch of other people. And I played all three sports growing up. Baseball, basketball were definitely my favorites. And then I kind of just fell in love with basketball. Baseball was too slow for me. Just wasn't my thing, you know. So I started focusing on basketball more in the 7th grade, which, to be honest, it was really one of my biggest regrets. Wish I would have kept playing the other sports. That's just kind of how it worked out for me. I graduated from Lakeshore High School. It's about 30 minutes from New Orleans or so, maybe a little longer. But I was a 2-year starter there. I was a team captain my senior year, an all-district player. We weren't a very good team my senior year, but we were extremely young at the time. I think I was the only senior starter, and we had 2 or 3 sophomores and a freshman that was starting. So, and we played in one of the toughest districts. So we were okay. So after high school, I started playing summer basketball with Delgado Community College. I found out real quick that it just really wasn't for me. I was like, I want to stay connected to the game, but I also got to kind of grow up and get a job and start being an adult. So I got a little rough there because it was hard to choose. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I don't know if I want to quit basketball and start working, and so I found out that coaching was kind of my thing, man. I called my high school coach for some advice, and he was like, why don't you come back here for a year and coach the freshmen? And those guys really won't know who you are, and you'll get to coach those guys. And my high school coach, Terry Kendall, he's still there right now, and I'll actually tell you a little story about him in a few minutes. But so I did that for a year, and then I kind of realized, I was like, I got to get somewhere else. I got to go grow. I got to learn some new things from someone else. And so a couple of weeks go by, and I get a phone call and from another buddy of mine, which was Rick Spring. I actually played for him. So I went from Lakeshore High School to Pearl River High School for 2 years, which Lakeshore and Pearl River is in the same district here. Mm-hmm. And we got to talking a little bit. So I spent 2 years there, and really learned a lot under him. And I'll kind of get back to him in a minute as well, because you'll understand why. But I I spent 2 years with him. We kind of got the program going back in the right direction. And then after that, I found out I have to finish my school, got to get certified. And Louisiana's really strict about certification and all their teachers and stuff. So I I found a little school in Metairie, Louisiana. It was called Ridgewood Preparatory School, and the school was ran by a 92-year-old man. He still, man, I'm telling you, this man he was there every single day. He was at work. I remember going into the interview, and he still was the type of guy that believed in your word and a handshake. And before I left the interview, he offered me the job. And it wasn't much money, man. I was probably making $24,000, but he gave me all PE, 3 or 4 PE classes, and head basketball coach, and I had to help in other sports. And I'm forever grateful for him because he was the one who gave me my first shot there, and I loved it there a lot. It just was a small school, and the enrollment was very, very small, so it was really hard to get something going there again. But
Yeah.
um, I still keep in touch with some of the administrators there just because of how much I loved it there. And then I ended up, so COVID hits, and Ridgewood is in the process of possibly closing down. The enrollment's really small, not really enough money to keep the school going. And I mean, I'm kind of like in the middle because I'm still having to finish school and get a certification. And so I ended up taking 60 hours in a year to get my bachelor's degree done, because I
Wow.
knew I didn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
and not many people believe that, but that is very true. Uh, I just, man, I just got it done, and I knew I had to get it done to get into coaching. I knew I had to get started on my certification. So I stayed at Ridgewood just to teach. We didn't have enough kids for sports. I actually did start a little middle school team there, but it was kind of really small. Kids never had really any experience, but I kept working and trying to get so I got a phone call from a buddy of mine at Fountain Blue High School, which his name was Randall Ginn, and he gave me an opportunity to be an assistant under him, and he just got the job there, and I was there for 2 years, and we ended up turning the program around, got it back to the playoffs back to back years, and
Nice.
yeah, man, I tell you, I enjoyed coaching with him so much. And to be honest with you, I probably would be still with him if Pearl River didn't offer me a head coaching opportunity. And all. So that's
Hmm.
where I'm at now. I'm at Pearl River High School. The guy that was coaching here, he was actually one of my former junior high teachers. And he calls me up, Coach, what you doing, man? Meet me at it was a pizza place in Mandeville. We went Fat Boys. It was called Fat Boys. He's like, come meet me. I want to talk to you. And they ended up offering me the job over some hot wings and a beer. So it was really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it was. It was awesome. One of the coolest things about it is he's still my assistant coach today.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, right now he is, man. So he stayed on. He just wanted me to take over and do things a little different than what he did. Me and the kids connected well, and we turned it around this year, man. We did a really good job, and I'm very proud of our kids for being committed in the program. So
That's
um,
awesome. What a
yeah,
journey.
yeah, and I'm married. Married to my high school sweetheart. We've been together for 8 years. We've been married 1 year, and being a head coach and trying to get married, man, I don't recommend it. Get married before you're a head coach. It was
That,
tough.
yeah, that's congratulations on that. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. Awesome, coach. You mentioned how to me that you love up tempo basketball. Let me ask you, where did that desire to come from to be an up tempo coach? Was that something you always have, or was that inspired by something?
So in my junior high years, and I played for Rick Spring, and we won 77 games together. We lost our very first game together, and we never lost again after that. So he was my seventh grade coach, my eighth grade coach, and my ninth grade coach. Um, and and if we were still playing a game right now, we would still be pressing the other team. Like we never stopped pressing people. Um, he just the way we ran things, the way he wanted us to play. It was never slow. We never, and I'm not lying when I say this, we probably ran 2 set plays over all those games. We ran a break, we pressed people. We had structure, like everyone understood a job. We always looked for our first shot available. And to be honest with you, man, I just don't like slow basketball. It's not fun to me. I don't like playing it. And when I played in that system, I fell in love with it, and my teammates fell in love with it. And then when I started coaching, the kids fell in love with it. So that's kind of where I got it from. I'm not saying I don't respect slow basketball or anything, because I love learning it. And there's coaches who definitely win by it. I mean, so I definitely respect it. But that's kind of where I got it from. He just showed it to me, and I played in it, and I was able to coach with him again. So I learned it again. And, so that's just where I get it from. And I kind of try to carry it on where I'm at now.
I was going to ask, how much of that do you still use in terms of your offense that you run right now?
Well, at the time, our personnel, when I was playing, our personnel was completely different than what it is now. But I'll say this: I try to do as much as I possibly can, because here's how I look at it. And some people may think it's wrong, but that's okay. I look, if we can get a shot early and transition to a guy that can knock down shots or be strong going to the basket, then why are we going to run a set play and try to get the same look? So that's kind of my thing. It's kind of goofy, I guess, but that's the way I look at it. If we can get a quick shot, the same shot we're going to try and get when we run a set play, and we might as well take the quick one. So,
and so what would you say the scores in your games are? Is it high scoring affairs, or?
when I'll say this: when we're clicking and shots are falling and things are going the way they're supposed to go, we're in the low 60s, high mid 70s, I'd say. Anywhere between there, depending on the opponent, of course. But with someone that's about with us and not as, maybe we're not as good as them or equal, it's high scoring, because that's just how we want to play. So I don't ever tell my kids to pull the ball out and slow it down, not unless there's 15, 20 seconds left and we're holding for the last shot or something. But we're not looking to slow the ball down at all. So,
Isn't that always, I was gonna
go
say, isn't
ahead.
that always nice when you get to see it like fully like go on and click, and then you look up at the score and you said, wait, how much do we put? 60, 70 something? Like,
Oh,
oh man.
it's awesome. And there was games where we had 85 this year. So,
Yeah.
it's always, but I would say mid 60s to mid 70s. That's about where we're at. And and that this year, I'm gonna be honest with you, man, we weren't a very great shooting team, and but that's just where we were, and that's just how we wanted to play. So,
No, excellent. So on the topic of creating more turnovers, let's start with the foundational piece, Coach. When it comes to creating more turnovers, what do you think are the keys to getting more turnovers in a game?
I think the very first thing is pace. I think that's where it starts. I think if you're trying to keep someone, especially someone who's not used to playing at a higher pace, they're going to turn the ball over. So I definitely think pace is one of our very main things. Even so, offensively, yeah, we don't really look to run anything on offense. Well, that's because we really want to get back in defense and pressure the ball and try to get a layup. So pace is definitely, I think, the biggest thing. And then you're going to think I'm crazy, but I also think patience. I think patience is so it's kind of contradicting what I said, but patience is one thing, because the kids got to understand, if you're going to play at this style, you're going to play up tempo, you're going to try and turn people over. Well, you got to be patient with it. You're not going to get a steal every time. You're not going to get a turnover every time. They're going to score some baskets. So I think just being patient sometimes, like sticking with what you know, and I think that's where because when you go back to patience, the first half, let's be honest, everyone watches film these days. So the first half, a lot of times our scores were a little closer, and coach did a good job of game planning. Well, that second half kicks in. That's where we really turn it up a notch. About the mid third quarter, the goal for us is to be up by 10. And we can do that because the other team's not used to playing that fast. They're starting to turn the ball over a little bit. And so something that we play a 1-3-1 over at Pearl
Hmm.
River. It's we're our pointer, the top guy in the 1-3-1 is forced into the sideline. So, well, what good teams will do, and average teams for the most part, they will play with the pointer. They will try and throw the ball back and forth, and to the reversal and the point guard, if you're following me right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so they think they got us. Well, by that third quarter, they're getting a little tired, and they're getting a little tired of playing that game. So they'll start turning the ball over, taking chances, and that's really where we kind of make our run in the mid third quarter a lot of times. And I'll say this, and creating more turnovers, I think you got to have confidence in your system. Your kids have to have confidence in the system, and I think it's again, it goes back. It's okay that we didn't get the steal. It's okay that they got a bucket. Let's just get the ball in and get back in it. So and you also got to have some guys on your team that's going to be aggressive. If you're not going to be aggressive and you're not going to be active, then you can't press people. You can't. There's no way. I mean, you're going to get some fouls sometimes, and So I think those are a couple of the keys to it for sure.
So when you put in the 1-3-1, was that something new to your guys? Was that something you had to like teach them?
Oh yeah, that was.
So what was that like?
Oh man, that was a little rough at first. Our guys really have never played it, never really saw it, honestly. So I was really starting from scratch, and when I was like, all right, let's line up in a 1-3-1, and I always try to draw it on the board first before we go out and practice and give them a different visual, but it was tough. I got the job before the summer, so I had summer practice and had about 25 games over the summer, and we worked it. That's all we did. I was not worried about winning, really. I was not worried about the score. I was worried about us being in the right place, understanding our rotations out of it. So, and I'll say
so it took
this.
time, huh? There was a lot of trial and error and
Oh,
mistakes that were made.
no doubt, because you got to know which guys can move, which guys can be interceptors, which guy who in the 1-3-1 are the best athlete for us is in the back. So that's where our fastest guy is. So you get to find out who's got a good reaction time and who's a good athlete. And so it was a lot, man. And there were some games over the summer we got beat by 20, 25. And there were some games over the summer where, especially towards the end, we were playing extremely, extremely well. Kids were starting to catch on to it. So it was really fun to watch those guys progress over the summer.
And as you're kind of going through that process, did you have to go through like it was almost like a tryout in some ways of like who can actually, in the 1-3-1, who could be the one at the back, who could be the one at the front. Like you got to find, as you mentioned, right, guys who have the right mentality to play that spot, because if you don't have the right mindset for it, you're not going to get the results you want.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. And another thing that goes into play with that, coach, is understanding, all right, you're playing this guy here. Well, that guy's got to be able to produce a little bit on offense too. So, trying to figure out who fits where it was tough. We moved guys around quite a bit, and we put some guys different in the starting lineup, and we tried over the summer 2 groups, and we rotated 8 or 9 guys in, but it was tough. It takes a lot of patience and time to figure out who's going to be where and who's going to do what. So,
and it sounds like from your description of some of the success you had that you kind of, or definitely wore teams down as the season, or as the game was going on, maybe as the season was going on too. So was there any particular emphasis on guys getting in shape, or is it just for what you were running and what you were practicing that guys just like didn't have any choice but to get in shape?
Yeah, I think so for us in practice, and I think I'll kind of get into that a little bit in a second, but I think in practice we've definitely, I mean, that's all we did. I mean, in practice when we're scrimmaging and going over stuff, these guys are getting up and down. We do some things in practice to get those guys in shape, but yeah, I mean, definitely doing it the whole time, it'll get you in shape, and that's why it's important. If this is my first, I think this year coming up will be the first legit opportunity I have to do exactly what I want to do as far as scheme wise. But you got to have 8 or 9 guys that can play, because if my thing is, I was always taught growing up as a player, hey man, if you're not tired in 3 minutes, you ain't working hard enough, So, and we kind of tried to get that in our kids, and we started seeing our kids grow up a little bit in maturity because they started tapping out, and they weren't. They're like, Coach, I gotta come out. I want to stay in, but I gotta come out. So when you see that, when you see kids starting to do that, I think I think your kids are turning the corner a little bit, because that's a character thing, not being selfish too. So you know,
And so it's one of those like it's okay in a sense to like you need to be wearing yourself out. Like you got to push yourself to that point. That sounds like that was like a almost kind of like a point of emphasis or a point of pride that you worked yourself to that level that like you got no choice but to be coming out.
yep, there's no doubt. And our kids play extremely hard for us, and and that's something that I feel like the kids take pride in. They just play really hard, and if you're playing hard, moving around, you're gonna get tired. So, that's one thing I love about our kids here at Pearl
Uh,
River is they bust their butts. So.
Awesome. And you talked about the 1-3-1. Let's talk in general. What do you think goes into an effective press? Like what did you have to teach and implement with your guys to make sure that they were pressing and trapping and doing all that stuff the way you wanted it done?
Um, Man, it took a lot of patience, and
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure. I hear you, coach. Go ahead.
yeah, so teaching really teaching the angles, where our trap zones were. That's where we try to make sure that we force the basketball. That's why for us we force the basketball to the sidelines. So you don't have a choice. I mean, you wherever you catch the ball, that's where we're trying to keep you. Now, the only way they're going to reverse it, of course, is I mean, if they get to the other side, they reverse it. So working angles a lot, and just it's just repetition, repetition. This is what we're going to do. This is what we want. Be in the right place at the right time. And you, like I said, we fly around. So, I just kind of just focus on where this is where you need to be if the ball's in this area or this area. So, and during practice a lot, the kids actually get a little frustrated with the coaches, with us, because we're blowing the whistle every 30 seconds sometimes when we're trying to teach it. So we're like, all right, well, you're not in the right place. That's why we're blowing the whistle. So, and it's not going to go the same way every time. I've learned that over this past year a lot. It's this game is so funny at times, and basketball, wherever the basketball's at, you just teach this is where you need to be. And it also goes back to, well, where's your opponent? So how's your opponent lining up against it? So
And you mentioned patience, which I agree. Like if anything, because it is complex. There's so many moving parts and so many things that have to go on for a press or a trap to work. And so, from your experience, when we talk about the blowing the whistle and the mistakes that get made, what do you find that your guys are maybe not executing right? That you feel like you do need to stop the whistle. What are things or errors that you kind of see that you got to catch and fix right away?
oh man, one thing that bothered me a lot, and it might have been him being a little lazy every now and then, or just this is what frustrates me the most about what we did this year in the 1-3-1. So for us, the middle guy in the 1-3-1, he covered the middle. It's basically, look, man, don't let this dude catch the ball. I don't care what side, where the ball is, you cover the middle guy, and I'll be damned. He let someone catch it every now and then, and that just kind of triggered me a little bit. I'm like, dude, you have nothing else to do. All you're doing is covering the middle. Cover the middle, take that pass away. Because just like every other zone or press, where's people want to get the basketball? They want to get in the middle. So,
And what do you
and
what do you think that was too? Just his eyes just not looking at where he needs to be, or just not noticing what's happening around him, or
playing behind, being
yeah.
hesitant, not wanting to get in front of that guy, thinking if he does get in front of him, he's going to get burned. And we teach him the 3-quarter, but also sometimes he couldn't control it. They would do a bounce pass to the outside hand, and he would miss it. But sometimes it's just like I tell the kids, man, if we're gonna play like this, you got to play aggressive. You can't let you if you miss it, you miss it. So what? I'd rather watch you miss trying to steal the middle pass than being playing back and letting them get a layup on a 2-on-1 or 3-on-2 or something. So
And I think
my
that's a point about just the idea of creating more turnovers is almost you got to make sure that your guys know that and I think you mentioned this before that like they're going to fail and they kind of have to fail,
they
right? In
do.
a sense, in order for this to work out well, like you got to take some chances with, within reason. You gotta be able to anticipate, and you have to understand, right, that the mistakes are going to happen. And I think as a coach, you have to make sure you're creating a climate and an understanding that like you almost need to be getting beat once in a while. Otherwise, you're really not running this correctly at all.
Yep. Yep. And that happens, and again, that's going back to having confidence in your system, I think, as a coach, and I think your players have to have confidence in it. And it's also mental toughness. Like you said, you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail. So, so what? Let's get the basketball in and let's go get a good look. And when we come back and we get back in it, and let's just correct from where we made the mistake,
Mhm.
So, and I think that's where the patience, in my opinion, and the mental toughness and stuff like that comes in sports a little bit. And it's okay. We don't get on our kids for failing like that. We want them to. You have to do it to learn it. So
And
that's
it's
what we.
kind of patience as a coach too, to know that if you are going to say it's okay to make mistakes and take chances, well, when your player does do those, you have to not necessarily get on them and rip them a new one for doing that if that's what
Yep.
you wanted them to kind of do.
Yep. And I'll say this, and I know this is kind of to the offensive side, which I'm sure we'll get into in a second. But
Hmm.
one of my favorite things is watching a kid trying to advance the ball up the floor. And if he overthrows him or throws it out of bounds, our coaches, we don't yell at our players for that. That's an okay turnover in our system. We want you to advance the ball up the floor. So, and the kids know that, so they're going to try, and they know they're not going to get fussed at for making that mistake. Now
Yeah.
don't keep doing it, but if but of course you do it once or twice, even three times. We as coaches know, all right, he's just trying to do what we're coaching him to do.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. No, 100%. So you get the press, you get the trap right, and I see a lot of good initial action where there's a trap that comes in, you got the ball handler, and for one reason or the other, we're not getting the tip, we're not getting the deflection, we're not finishing the job and getting the actual turnover we need off of it. So I wanted to ask you what goes into the trap and then the tip and the deflection. What do you kind of work on with your guys to make sure that they're kind of finishing the job once they get that initial trap in on the ball handler?
So, we just kind of that's where we stop practice a lot. So if the ball is trapped here or there, wherever the ball is trapped, this is where you need to be. This is where you need to be rotating to. And if we do get deflections, we got to have guys flying to the basketball. And we also know, sometimes a loose ball deflection, it's not going to go your way, but we want our guys flying to the basketball. So, sometimes that interceptor, whoever that sideline or middle guy is, they got to come flying to the basketball when they see a tip. So we just kind of trying to think the best way to answer that question, Coach.
Well,
Just kind of.
I was gonna say, like, I know one of the things that we kind of struggle a lot with. I don't know if you struggled with that too. Is we get the trap in, and then guys are, or I guess in my case, girls, they're reaching a lot, or they're putting too much on them to try and get the ball or try to get something out versus just keeping a good trap in and not picking up a cheap foul. I know we have to emphasize that a lot.
Yep. And I think that is one of definitely that's the downfalls of pressing is reaching and the fouling, and we kind of just try to teach, if you're beat, you're beat. You don't want to pick up a stupid foul, but and we just, if they do get past us and we don't get deflections, and we hustle back and we try to either man up or sit in the zone and do our best to get the pace back up. But um, yeah, we just we don't really teach. We, of course, no one wants to teach the foul, but I think something that one of my assistant coach gave me the idea this year, something that we're going to try,
Hmm.
or trapping or playing man to man defense. We're going to put tennis balls in their hands, and that way, hey man, look, if you're going to try and reach, you're not going to do anything but hit them with a tennis ball if you're reaching, or when you're playing man to man, you're using no hands, just use your feet. So if you got a tennis ball in your hand, we feel like he can't grab or foul. So if that
Huh.
makes any sense.
That's
something.
interesting.
Yeah,
I'd be curious to see how that works out. I mean, hey, you know what? To me, if it works, right?
yep.
And
So
yeah,
we
that's it. Go ahead.
yeah, that's something that I it was one of my assistant coaches. You know, he's older than me. He knows a good bit, and he was like, Coach, why don't we try it? And I said, Coach, you know, hell, it ain't gonna hurt. Let's give it. You know, so you know if we can get them to stop fouling and sometimes. So one of the downfalls, you know, about all this is if you don't have a lot of if you don't have a lot of depth, it can really screw you because if let's say your starting point guard or your best player picks up a cheap foul by fouling, you know, that's where it really sucks. But it just comes with time, man. And I think you know, even sometimes after year one, your kids are not going to understand completely what you're doing. It does not matter how much you practice, how much you rep it. It has to. It just takes time. And once they understand that, oh man, I can't pick up a foul there. I can't reach right here in this situation. You know, that's when they become better players. But it comes in time.
It's a process, right? Like it's
Yeah.
you're gonna. I think if you emphasize trying to get more turnovers or pick up pace, I think you're gonna see success with it. But with those successes, you're gonna see a lot of things too that are gonna look really ugly, especially in the beginning. But it's just kind of taking the lumps that come with it, sort of thing.
Yep. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. It goes back to patience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So sometimes it's easier some days than others to be patient, though. That
Yeah.
is for sure. Uh,
Especially games and big games. And
yeah, you don't want to, yeah, especially when things are looking really good in certain games, and then all of a sudden not so good in other games. Yeah, I get you. I get you. Uh, talk about the process of now that you were creating these turnovers, about getting a good clean fast break opportunity out of it. So what goes into uh kind of a good fast break, and what do you kind of work on with your guys to make sure that you're getting one?
well, it goes back to for us in our system, our point guard is our quarterback. So, and in the press, or honestly, coach, it can be any defense. But for us, our point guard had when the ball is turned over, if we get a turnover, if that guy is not literally wide open to go shoot a layup or something, we want our point guard to come get the basketball. And it also goes back to you know who your team and those guys understanding their assignments off of it. You know, off of a turnover, we're looking for a 3-on-2, of course, if we can get a 2-on-1. But you know, sometimes a turnover turns into in a certain area wherever that steal happens, the guy has to come find the point guard, and the point guard has to come make himself available.
Mm,
So that's it for us. For me, the point guard is huge for us, and it's probably huge for every program. But I think you know, I tell my point guards all the time, look, man, you're going to get yelled at the most, you're going to get coached the most because you have the ball the most. So, you know, that's how we talk. That's how we approach it. But I'll say this after if so, if they score, this is what it kind of looks like for us. If they do score on a press or against us, we have our throw in man, which is typically our four. We have the point guard, and then we teach butt to the sideline on the inbound. We have our right lane, which he's usually a pretty good shooter. He's a decent athlete. He's got. I want a guy over there that's got the scorer's mentality. And left lane, I kind of like that guy to be a good shooter and also a good athlete, and he's got to have a good backside rebound. So, and then we got our middle lane guy who's we always want someone who's very fast. A lot of people like to put their big to run the middle, which I like that as well. But for us, where I'm at right now, our five is very, very athletic. He's long and he understands. Look, when we get the ball, I'm running the middle lane, and my job's to be the first one down the floor. He does an unbelievable job at it. He's really fun to watch. This year, he just started getting to the point where he's catching it, turning to the basket, and going off 2 feet and dunking the
nice.
basket. So he was really fun to watch this year. He's only a sophomore, so but and again, he's probably not a really true post, but he's developing and I like my trailer. We call it our trailer throwing man. He's always I always like that guy to be a shooter. So This is what we teach when we get the ball off of. I'm talking about scored basket right now. So when they score,
Yep.
all right, my point guard's job's catching on the sideline. His first look, even off of a turnover, his first look is always middle lane. Is my middle lane guy beating everyone down the floor? Can I throw him the basketball? And that goes back to what I was talking about in the turnovers. If he overthrows him, that's okay for us because we know he's looking down the floor. We're looking to get him the basketball for an easy 2 points. And you'd be amazed, man. I mean, and it goes back to my junior high days. We had a middle lane guy, and he averaged 10 points just from beating people down the floor. He averaged 10 points a game. And that guy this year for me did the same thing. So it was really, it was really fun to watch him play. But anyway, we teach the point guard to first looks middle lane. Your second dribble should be the right lane. And that third dribble, we're going to the other side of the floor. We're really looking for that opposite wing. And then at that time, if that third or fourth dribble, we're not getting to that opposite wing, the point guard's job is to try to get and set up the trailer for a top shot. So
And
that's how
you're not looking to slow down. I can tell you're not looking to get into any sort of necessarily set play or run something like you mentioned before earlier.
Nope. And I'll say this. So we teach our point guards, like I said, if the point guard does all that, goes through his progression, and he does not see any of these guys open, then we may run a quick hitter. It has to be quick, or most of the time, our point guard's a better athlete than our opponent. So we tell him, hey man, 1 or 2 dribbles, get past your defender, and let's do some dribble drive stuff. And this guy if the middle lane guy steps up, you're hitting the dish. The right wing guy slides over to help, you're hitting the right wing. So and look, it goes back to I want these guys to play loose. I want these guys to have the freedom to make plays. I also want them to have freedom to make mistakes. So, in the offense. And I'll tell you this, our point guard, he's a sophomore, and he's going to be something special, man. He's coming along. So, and go ahead.
I was gonna say there's a lot of quick decision making that has to go into this, and I was curious about, is that something that you feel like needs to had to be explicitly taught to your point guard and your other players? Was it something you had to spend a lot of time kind of building that decision making process with, or what was that like?
Coach, we're still building it. We build it every day.
So,
we work on it every day. And one thing that we try to do every single practice is sometimes we'll put them in a little circle, make them circle up, throw it off the backboard. Guys got to find the point guard. Well, sometimes it'll be 5-on-4. So who's open? Somebody's got to be open because there's 4 guys on the floor. And that's when that plays a part in transition because we're trying to beat you down the floor. So a lot of times we got uneven matchups with numbers. And that we pull, sometimes we'll pull the middle, whoever's guarding the middle lane. We'll tell him, hey, look, you stay right here and let's see if he finds the middle lane this time. Stuff like that. I mean, it's every day. And we let them scrimmage just about every practice. So during scrimmage, we're looking to run the break. I call it running game. And Rick Spring taught me that. He came up with the name, but he calls it running game, and it's just kind of carried over into my coaching career. That's just what we call it. And it's kind of funny, man. The kids think it's a play. They're like, Coach, are we running running game this time? And I'm like, yeah, dude, we run running game every time. They think it's a play, and it's really not a play. It's just the point guard making a basketball decision. So hopefully that answers.
Yeah, no, it's I guess that's probably one of the easiest and most effective ways to build decision making, right? Is always putting your guys or girls in a position where they have to make decisions in practice. And it sounds like that's a big emphasis on kind of what you do is always just practicing their and kind of testing their decision making abilities in practice situations.
Yep. And we'll put a clock up sometimes. Hey, man, I want a shot in 5 seconds. We need something. If that's you going to the basket, or if that's you setting up your teammates, whatever, we need a shot. We got to get some pressure. So you got to get the ball out of our hands and let's get a good look. And something. So what we teach, and I'm sure a lot of people do this, but we teach when the point guard, if he advances the ball to the wing. So right now the point guard catches it, advances it to the right wing, and I'm telling you, we do this a lot. I mean, we just ball. Sometimes he's not open to do anything with it, but we advance it up. we're getting up the floor. And we teach our wings, you got to sprint. When you're sprinting that lane, your job's to get free throw line extended to the to the 3-point line, and you have your hands out ready to shoot. So our progression to our wings, you look shot first. If you're open, you shoot the three. All right. Second look is inside. We want, of course, I say shot, then look inside. But if you have an ability, the opportunity to drive to the basket, you do that. But what we teach is you look shot first, inside to the post. Does the post have the middleman sealed? If he does, throw it to him. It's a quick move. And then if none of that's open, you look skip. So we look skip. And if the skip's not open, then you put the basketball on the floor to create for yourself or create for another teammate. So that's kind of what we teach our wings in the transition. We're not going to get we're not always going to get a wide open three. So they got to know what to do after. There's a progression to everything, I think. So,
Let me ask you, I'm curious as I'm just kind of thinking of the process of transition opportunities. This is a little bit not out there, but it was just something I was kind of thinking about finishing out in transition. Do you find, because I know I do, I was wondering if you had this experience at all. Do you find that you have to work on finishing at the rim at all and making sure that like we're actually getting good, layups or finishing through contact? It's something I've had to work a lot on. I didn't know if that was something at the guys level or at yours level that you find that you got to work on as well.
Yeah. 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 We want our kids to come off of 2 feet as much as possible. I feel like you have a stronger base off of 2 feet. We teach jump stop every day. So when you're coming in there and you got someone standing there, I want you coming to a jump stop to have full body control. We pull out a pad in practice and kind of, hit on them a little bit while they're going up, trying to finish. And
All right, so do I. Good. I'm not alone.
yeah, no, definitely not. And I think it's a lost art. Kids just, I don't know what it is, man. I think they just are scared of contact or what. But I'll say this year it was a little different. I got some guys. Like I said, all my guys play football here at Pearl River, so they're a little bit physical, more physical than the average team, I would say. No, they're not scared of contact, but sometimes it's just a youth thing. Like they just got to keep doing it to get better at it. The first time they ever go to the basket strong and they're looking to go finish, well, someone's standing there, so that kind of shocks them at first. So once they get used to someone being there and stuff like that, I think they'll get, for us, our guys got a little better at it. And, and also you talked about finishing through contact. A lot of times we teach, man, 1 or 2 dribbles, pull up, shoot it off the glass. Why are you going to go down there against the 6'5" so you can get your shot blocked? Why don't you just finish, take the easy one? So a lot of times kids get confused on what the easy shot is. So.
Yeah, it doesn't come intuitively. I think that we sometimes think that it would. Even the process of just taking the smart shot or the quote unquote easy shot isn't necessarily instinctual for them.
Yep. It takes some time to get better at it for sure. And that comes with time, And I'll say this, I think I'm a true believer, and I learned this at Fountain Blue High School, true believer in the weight room. It makes your kids a little mentally tougher. And so when they go in there and of course, physically, more tough physically. And when they go in there and try to finish, it makes a difference. You can tell who needs to be in the weight room and who doesn't. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. What is the balance for you? And I'm thinking about kind of, back to, pressing, pressure, trying to create a lot more turnovers. Where do you kind of draw the line between players being up tempo, aggressive, and playing with high energy versus like being reckless? Is there at what point do you kind of, if at all, do you kind of think that a player might be veering into being more reckless and out of control versus, playing with high pace?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think when the kid is going, so if he's playing up tempo, he's playing fast, and I think if whoever it is gets the basketball and they're going into the paint and throwing up bad offensive shots, and I think you're out of control. I think that's when we get away from what we're trying to do, and it goes back to your team has to know who they are, also. and you got to know the guy on one. If you're a starter, you have to understand if I'm a guy that can shoot, I'm gonna shoot. If you're someone that can't shoot and you just keep bombing away, I think you're playing out of the system. So you're gonna have to come sit with me for a few minutes. But um, if you're going to the basket and you're just throwing up garbage, kind of like we was talking about finishing. If you're throwing up, the hook shots and stuff and bad floaters and stuff like fadeaway, like stuff that doesn't even have a chance to go in, then you're playing out of control. And you can play up tempo, but that's where the break comes in handy. That's where your point guard knows if none of that's open, then we do have to get in a quick hitter. Let's get in it. Or if I'm gonna beat my man, well, I got to take a good looking shot. So on the offensive side, and then defensively, and it's the same in a way. It's kind of the same thing. Like, are we just going to keep fouling people? Then that's not what we're trying to do. Our job is to wear these guys out and make it as clean as possible, and just I think that's where it kind of comes in. So.
Yeah, I know for me it's the fouling part that gets to me, and I think that um I've seen, and I don't know if you've seen this as well, especially when it comes to trying to create a lot more turnovers or pressing, as if a player, lets a guy go by, we give up a couple baskets. I'll have girls who maybe try to overcompensate the next time and really try and get a steal, or really try and force some sort of trap, and then either they get burned, or they give up a foul, or maybe even give up another basket because then they're playing wild and out of position too.
Yep. Yep. And we have things for us as a staff. We have things to fall back into. I mean, look, I'm just being honest. There are teams out there. We played this year. We could not just physically press because we weren't as athletic as them, So there you got to have a plan B as well. But I'll say this, I'm not going to plan B until I definitely know we're outmatched, or stuff like that. But I don't. Even if it's sometimes for us, like as a staff, it goes back to the kids having fun, right? So, do the kids want to play that slow? Sometimes we'll ask the kids, "Hey, man, y'all want to slow it down? We'll slow it down." But if y'all don't want to slow it down, this is what you got to do. You got to do what you're coached to do, and be in the right place at the right time, and fly around and have some high energy, and if your kids are playing hard for you, you never know it when the horn goes off if you're close or not. So.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good follow-up question. For somebody like yourself who likes to press a lot and really get out there and create a lot of pressure and try to create a lot of turnovers, you probably see a lot of similar press break actions. And I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, but I did want to explicitly ask, what do you kind of see as kind of is there like kind of a go-to fast break action that you kind of see that you're always kind of ready for, or does every coach kind of have their own wrinkle that they try to put in the press break? What do you kind of notice?
A lot of people. So I've seen a lot. Um, there was a lot of times people would put two or three people in the middle, and that can give the middle guy problems, of course. And they'll also, the biggest one for me that's hard to get a solid steal if they're a very well disciplined team. It's the reversal pass, man. They put a guy as a reversal, and so it's basically a 2-1-2 format. And sometimes they'll put it as a 2-3, two guards in the back and three across. Does that make sense? You got a man in the middle,
Hmm.
left and right wing, and they'll get that skip pass because in a 1-3-1, if you're the opposite wing, you have the basket for us. So if they put someone high around half court on the opposite side of the trap, then they'll get that pass across a lot of times. And there's adjustments we make to that. I mean, we tell them, hey man, cheat the pass. We're going to try and steal that. So go ahead and cheat it. And now we get burned. They'll get a layup every night, but that's okay. And so it's just some chances we take. And I feel like so far we were able to make a tweak to certain stuff. And here's another thing that plays a part in this.
Okay.
So for us, like I said, we have football guys, so we have to play 3 or 4 games a week to get a full schedule throughout the year. So that third week, that third game in a week, it's tough to press people now. It ain't easy because those top 8 or 9 guys, they a little wore out by that time. So, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what, and I kind of got off top there, but
No, you
uh,
wear them out though. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, but I've seen some people do some unique things. Like I said, but so far for us, the biggest problem is defending that reversal pass because if they keep doing it and our guys are going to keep rotating the way they're supposed to, they'll eventually get it across and we'll have to get out of it. But but not many people have done that this past year, you know, and even some of the better teams we played, they didn't beat us by beating this press. They just beat us because our guys were wore out. They had some better athletes than us and stuff like that. But we gave some good teams some problems with our press this year, and I was very proud of our kids for that.
And kind of to add to that point, and I think that this goes kind of maybe for coaches who are looking to add more tempo or try to, maybe look into pressing a little bit more, is that at least for me, like I'm not too concerned sometimes about getting beat in the first or second quarter because I feel like I'm gonna get that back in the second half by keep making you have to break it over and over again and I'm willing to give up a little in the beginning because if I think I'm gonna get it back twofold in the second half.
Yep, I think that goes to giving different looks, and just because like I said, just because they're beating you early, they're not going to beat you the whole game a lot of times. And the good teams, a lot of times the good teams will, because most of the times good teams are well coached, so that happens a little bit. But even those teams, they'll break sometimes, and I've seen that the past year. And so
Do you
again,
have
just
a
being.
I was going to ask, do you have a lot of variations to the type of press? I know you mentioned 1-3-1. Is there anything else that you like to fall into or go into?
We did a little bit of matchup run and jump this year with man, but we did a lot of half court traps. So we played a little 1-2-2 half court, and we would trap on the wings and the corners a lot. And we also a lot of if we were a man at half court, we would um, we would trap the first pass. So and look, I think everyone and we all need different looks. You can't. It's hard to stick with one thing the entire game and win that way. But I've also done it, and I've also won that way, and previous coaches I've coached with have won that way. So I guess the saying goes back to, hey man, if you're going to do this, let's stick to one thing and be extremely good at it instead of
Mhm.
throwing 10 things at our kids and not being very good at anything. So I like the saying we can hang our hat on our 1-3-1. It's my favorite. It's the kids' favorite, and we call it fist. And all the kids, coach, we're not playing that. We're playing fist. This is what we want to do. We're going to play fist today. All right, let's get after it. The kids, if the
That's
kids
great. Yeah.
they want to play it, they're going to get after it. Well, let's get in it. So they're the ones that have to play the game. So it's important to know what they like and what they don't like. So
And I know I have at least when I was younger, I don't think I do this as much now, but I know I used to. I would get in the habit sometimes of out coaching myself by assuming that if I did something the same time over and over, eventually the coach would figure it out and have a counter to it. And I would get out of stuff even if the other coach hadn't shown they could break it yet. And I kind of look back on that now and I'm like, man, why did I give that other coach an out by switching out of it if they hadn't even proven they could stop, this initial action or initial press I was in?
yep, yep, and that goes. Look, they can try. People can try it, and it goes the same for us. Like the team going that's doing it. We can make a little tweak, but is that tweak going to work the whole game? I don't know. Sometimes it does. I guess sometimes it doesn't. But
Yeah.
hard you play when you're pressing and sticking in the one thing, and but I'll say this year coming up, this summer I'm really looking forward to this summer for our kids because we're going to put in a little 2-2-1 look, and it has some similarities to our 1-3-1 and what we're going to try and do out of it, four sideline and trapping on the sideline, stuff like that. So it's just sometimes, coach, a different look will throw off someone, just a different look. So
It just puts a little bit more thinking and a little bit more like decision making involved on everyone's plate, and in just that little bit, that could just be enough to throw someone off completely, even if it's only a small wrinkle.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Let me ask before we start to wrap up and hit our concluding segment. How deep did you run last year? You mentioned the need for depth. How big was your rotation last year?
We went 8 guys. They were pretty much consistent players. We had two guys who played the 4 and 5 for us, and we rotated another guy as a guard. He played the 2, 3. He never played the 1, but so for us, we played 8, and my 4 could play the point guard some. So we rotated him out. If we rotate our starting point guard out, we would move our throwing man to our point guard, and he would handle the ball for us. But I think this year coming up with some guys maturing, I'm going to try and go a little deeper with 9 to 10. It is, I'm for it, and then again, I'm not. I just can't make up my mind exactly how many guys I'm going to play next year. But it's really tough, man, because it's you got to have some depth to play 4 quarters that way, and
Yeah.
then and then sometimes you just don't have the depth, and you want to play that way, but it just won't allow you to. So,
Do you think there's like a sweet spot number? Is there like an ideal number? Like, man, if we could have X amount of guys, I guess the ideal number would be like 15, right? But realistically, is there like a sweet spot number? Is it 9? Is that what that would be like what you would like?
I would say 9,
Yeah.
10, 5 in, 5 out. My mentor, Coach tells me all the time, is like, I don't know why you won't try 2 groups.
The
You know, I
hockey
don't know.
subs.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
mean,
I'm
10
not a
would be
fan of
great. The day I can get 10, coach, I don't know. We're gonna be a problem. We're gonna be a real problem. We can really run 10 deep like that. Yeah.
it. Yep.
Um,
Sometimes that
go
second
ahead.
5, it's just bringing them in for 2 minutes to get the other 5 a quick break. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
it has nothing to do a lot of times because, I mean, if they're not a starter, they're probably not as good as a starter. So, you want to get those guys that are starters back out there. But,
Sure.
it's just a quick break, 2-3 minute break. But
Yeah. Um, let me ask you before I hit our concluding segment. If you were to talk to a coach and then they said, like we're looking, coach, to, pick up the pace, try to get more turnovers, get out there and press, but we're coming from a system that had a lot of structure and slowed things down. So, but we're really trying to speed things up next year. What would be like your tip to them, or warning, or a piece of advice you would give to a coach who's really looking to kind of overhaul their system and really ratchet things up?
I would have to tell them, it starts with your mindset to your kids. You have to explain to them on day one, look, this is what we want in the game. This is how I want to play. And when you go into practice, you got to put in those kind of drills and just be really, everything has to be up tempo from here on out. It can't be, we're going to slow the ball down for these next 2 minutes and try to run this and this. And then if you're going to play that way, play that way. Don't confuse them. And also just on the offensive side, for me, like I said, the break is so important for us. Even so, in our 1-3-1, if you think about it, you got middle, right, left, and the 2 guys at the top and the complete bottom. Well, those guys, we put those guys on the sides like
Hmm.
that. They're going to be running their lanes, so that gives them an advantage, in my opinion. As soon as we get a steal, they already know where they're going. You know what I'm saying? So, it's really, it's a system, coach. It's everything has to line
It's a
up with each other.
mindset too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's where someone would have to start. Is, look, there is no more walking the basketball up. You walk the basketball up, you're coming out, and that sets the tone. I mean, that's just my opinion. You're not going to take the first open look. Well, then you can come sit, and I'll find someone who wants to shoot the basketball. So that's just some of the things we tell our kids to make their mind
No,
understand what we're trying to do.
I don't think anything lets a lesson sink in better than when somebody's benched for not doing something.
Nope. Just ask Bobby Knight; he'll tell you.
Yeah, that well put. To wrap up, coach, there's a couple questions I ask every guest. So I'm going to go and start with this first one, which is thinking back on your coaching career. What is a moment from your coaching career that you think that others listening right now would be able to learn from?
So it's not necessarily a moment. I think from being a young coach, when I've coached some teams that just aren't very good, I seem to want to get away from what I know. I start thinking about trying different stuff. I highly suggest not to do that. Like, I'm not saying it's not okay to tweak it and make some little adjustments, but stick to what you're doing. Have confidence in what you know. And sometimes it just takes a little time for things to come together. And it also helps it helps every coach that can have some players that can actually play, you know. So but being confident, another thing that I understand. So as a coach, this is something that I struggle with. And nobody on your most of the time, the kids on your team or the school you're at, administrator, nobody wants it as bad as you. So when you have a group that does, that's when you have something special. And all my mentors, my older coaches remind me all the time, remember what you're doing this for, because yes, it's winning's fun, but you're doing so much more for the kids than winning. So just remember your why when you're coaching. It's not really necessarily a moment, but that's just kind of something that I would tell other coaches.
And to kind of add to that, because I fully agree, you're gonna kind of sometimes look like the crazy person with how much you care about your program and the success of your kids. But like you said, right, you have to care and want it more than anyone else does, and I think that's a good thing if you kind of come off looking a little out there sometimes, or a little crazy, because that just kind of shows how much this means to you and how much it means to you to give that experience to the kids.
Yep, and I'll tell you this, man, your kids they might not see it that moment, but I truly believe down the road they're gonna come back one day and say, Coach, I see what you're saying, or I appreciate it, and there's no better feeling than that, I think. And I'm pretty young, man. I'm only 25, and I've had some guys do that already, and I'm not not tooting my own horn, but it's just a great feeling, and that when that happens, it reminds me, why we do what we do. Because it ain't. I'm gonna tell you this, it ain't for the money, Coach.
No, absolutely not. Awesome, Coach. To wrap up, I give every guest what I kind of call a 60-second soapbox. It's kind of like your platform to get out a final thought, a closing message, a final idea, just something in general to kind of leave the listeners with. You can take it any direction that you want. So I'm going to just kind of give you the floor, and don't worry, I'm not going to time you. You can go over 60 seconds. That's fine too. I'm going to just give you the floor, Coach. I'm just going to go ahead and let you take it from here.
Well, some of the things that I think, as young coaches, we have to understand is when we're in a profession now that these guys or girls, they look up to you. So look, man, be professional. Don't wear your hats in hoods and buildings. Don't wear your hats backwards while coaching. Don't wear hats while coaching. I just don't think that's very professional. It's just not a good look. And also, one thing that I wish for our sport and basketball is I wish more younger people would get involved with it. And I can see why some guys don't get involved in coaching at a young age. I mean, it can be overwhelming, especially with parents and administrators and just the paperwork. And so that's just my couple of little things, man. I just want these younger coaches to be professional and teach them, like why is it important to be professional? Well, one day, you're gonna have a job interview, so you got to learn how to be in a job interview and stuff like that. So I don't know. I guess that's just my little thing. I've never
modeling
been.
that behavior, right?
Yeah.
Modeling stuff, and I agree about getting more people in the game. I try to push my girls to get into coaching or get into reffing and stuff like that, and I hope it'll stick for at least a few of them, because I think they got so much they can give back, and hopefully some of them go in it. Hopefully some of your guys do too. That'd be cool.
Yes. Yep. And I haven't had one yet, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna be. I haven't, and I'm gonna be. I like what I'm saying. Like, they haven't gotten into coaching yet, but I'll say this: in our area, I only know one other guy that's younger than me or the same. I think he might be the same age as me that coaches, and I'm like,
Wow.
what? Coaches basketball. They might have a couple that do football, but coach, I'm telling you, man, I think people are just getting out. I don't understand, so I don't know.
That's crazy. I started when I was 22, I know, and I felt like there was some young ones, but I don't know. Maybe I'll have to look and think next time when I'm playing this summer. Like I'm 31 now. Like how young are some of the people? Am I still one of the youngest ones or not? I'm gonna have to
Um,
survey the landscape a little bit next time I'm doing my summer league stuff. Oh,
yeah,
funny, Coach.
yep.
Thank you very much for coming on here, talking about pressure, create more turnovers, your program, the mentality. I mean, it sounds like y'all are playing an exciting, fun, real fast-paced form of basketball that I'm sure it's a lot of fun to coach, a lot of fun to play in, and I feel like your system's only going to get better as you keep on growing and keep on building it. So, Coach Smith, keep on doing what you're doing out there, and looking forward to following your journey and seeing the success you and your program have. Thank you so much for coming on.
I really appreciate you having me. Thank you. Hopefully someone learned something.
I know they definitely did. And thank you all for listening. This was another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast, and we will see you guys.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Make sure to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.